I sat on the stool in the corner, my sari folded around me like a shield. The tin of sweets rested by my side, untouched. As laughter from the dining room poured through the walls, I told myself not to listen, not to hear, but when your own child speaks, your heart always listens. Even when your ears wish to close. Your home is beautiful, one of her in-laws said. You've done well for yourself. My daughter laughed, her voice ringing bright. Thank you, Maji, I wanted everything to be perfect for you. Someone asked lightly, and your mother, doesn't she live here too? There was a pause long enough for me to hope, long enough for me to imagine her calling me out proudly, saying, yes, my mother is here, please meet her. But instead, her voice came, soft and quick, she is resting in the kitchen. She doesn't know how to behave in front of educated people. It's better this way. The words cut like glass. Did she really believe I did not know how to behave? Had I not raised her with every value, every courtesy, every lesson of respect she now displayed as her own? It was my hands that folded her school uniform every morning, my voice that reminded her to say thank you and please, my sacrifices that gave her the books she now quoted from, and now, in front of strangers, she reduced me to an embarrassment, someone unfit to sit at their table. They laughed softly, politely, and moved on to another topic. But the wound had been made, and it bled silently inside me. I looked at the sweets, their sugar glistening under the dim bulb. They were more than food, they were my offering, my attempt to still belong. But she had locked me away like an object too plain to be displayed. If you believe no mother should ever be hidden away in shame, please comment respect below. Let's stand together for dignity. My mind wandered back to a time when she was small and we had guests in our old cracked home. The roof leaked, the chairs wobbled, but she would run out proudly to greet them, shouting, "This is my ma." She made all the food. Her eyes would sparkle then. Her voice would sing my name like it was her honor. And now, those same lips said, "She doesn't know how to behave." I thought raising her with values would keep me honored forever. Instead, those values became her mask, while I was hidden behind. I stood frozen in the doorway, her words echoing in my ears. "Don't sit with us. You'll embarrass me." My hand trembled on the tin of sweets, its lid pressed cold against my palm. But inside my heart, heat surged, heat not of anger, but of sorrow so sharp it cut through breath. I closed my eyes, and memory flooded in. I remembered when she was little, no taller than my knee, clinging to my sari whenever she was afraid. She would not sleep unless my hand stroked her hair. She would not eat unless I blew on her food first, cooling each bite. When she was ill with fever, I sat by her bedside for 3 nights straight, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth, whispering prayers into the darkness. I remembered when she cried for new shoes for school. The neighbors' children all had them shiny, red, buckled, but we had nothing left that month, not even enough for milk. So I took off the bangles from my wrists, thin gold, the last gift from my own mother. I sold them quietly and bought her shoes. Her face had lit up as she slipped them on, twirling for me. "Ma, I look just like the other girls now." I smiled and told her, "You don't just look like them, you look brighter." But inside, I mourned the loss of my bangles. A piece of my past given away, so her future could shine. I remembered the day she wanted to go to college. People whispered, "Why waste money on a girl? She will marry and leave." But I silenced them. I stitched clothes until my fingers bled, scrubbing floors until my knees cracked, saving every coin. When the money still wasn't enough, I skipped meals telling her I wasn't hungry, though my stomach twisted in pain. I handed her the admission fee one morning, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Ma, how did you manage?" I only smiled and said, "A mother's stomach can stay empty, but her child's future must stay full." And now, the same daughter who wore shoes from my bangles, who studied with money from my hunger, told me I was unfit to sit beside her in-laws. I opened my eyes, the present returning with sharpness. Laughter spilled from the dining hall, mixed with the clinking of glasses. My daughter's voice rang clear as she served dishes, graceful and proud. And me, I stood in the shadows, carrying the weight of memories that had been erased from her pride. If you believe no sacrifice should ever be repaid with shame, please like and share this story. Let's honor the mothers who gave everything for their children. I placed the tin of sweets on a small stool in the corner. I had imagined passing them around the table, my daughter smiling proudly as she said, "These are my mother's sweets, she makes the best in the world." But the only words she had given me tonight were, "Don't come out, you'll embarrass me." I thought my sacrifices would earn me a place of honor. Instead, they became the reason I was hidden away. The evening air smelled of spices and laughter. My daughter's house was glowing with lights, Her in-laws were visiting for the first time after the wedding. It was a proud moment, she had told me earlier. Her chance to show her new family that she was settled, respected, admired. I wanted to help her shine. I rose early that morning, bathed and pressed my sari 3 times until the folds were straight. It was old but clean, pale green with tiny embroidered flowers. I tied my hair neatly into a bun, slipped into my worn slippers, and carried a small tin of sweets I had prepared. My hands shook slightly, but my heart was warm with excitement. As I stepped toward the dining hall, my daughter's eyes caught mine. Her smile faltered, then vanished. "Ma," she whispered sharply, blocking my way. I paused, my tin of sweets trembling. "Yes, Betty. Shall I put these on the table?" Her lips tightened. Her voice dropped to a hiss. "No, please, don't sit with us. You'll embarrass me in front of my in-laws." The words struck harder than any slap. For a moment, I thought I had misheard. I blinked at her face, searching for softness, for the daughter who once clung to my sari when frightened. But all I saw was fear of me. Fear of what her in-laws might think if I sat among them. "Embarrass," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I am your mother. How can I embarrass you?" But before I could say more, laughter rose from the dining room. Plates clattered, chairs scraped. She glanced back nervously, then at me, her eyes pleading not for love, but for my absence. "Ma, please, just stay in the kitchen. Don't come out." If these words cut your heart like they cut mine, please subscribe so no mother's pain will go unheard. I froze in the doorway, my tin of sweets heavy in my hand. Inside, her in-laws were calling her name, praising her for the meal, complimenting her home. She beamed at them with pride. And me, I stood in the shadows, dismissed from the table of a daughter I had sacrificed my whole life to raise. I thought tonight would be a celebration. Instead, it became a night where I was told my presence was shame. The aroma of rich food drifted from the dining hall, curries bubbling in silver dishes, rice steaming, sweets piled high. The laughter of my daughter's in-laws rose above the clinking of spoons and plates. I stayed seated in the kitchen, hoping that at least when everyone was served, someone would remember me. A plate, a glance, a gesture of belonging. But when the maid entered, carrying an extra plate, she looked at me apologetically and said, "Baji asked me to serve you here. Uma, she said you would be more comfortable." More comfortable. The words were coded in politeness, but I heard the truth beneath them, unwanted at their table. She placed a simple plate before me, plain rice and dal, while in the other room, laughter accompanied every spoonful of delicacies. I looked at it for a long moment, my appetite vanished. Still, I lifted the spoon. Hunger does not care for dignity, but pain does. Each bite felt heavy, each chew filled with silence. I remembered the days when I cooked feasts in our little home. The pots were old, the spices few, but the children would gather around the floor mat, eager for my food. They would eat with both hands, licking their fingers, declaring, "Ma, this is the best food in the world." Back then, my kitchen was not a prison. It was the heart of our home, and now, years later, I sat in the kitchen again, not as the heart of celebration, but as the shadow hidden from it. Through the half-open door, I saw them raise their glasses in a toast. My daughter laughed, her head tilted back, her voice clear. To family, her family. And yet, I was not included in the very word she toasted with pride. If you believe no mother should ever be forced to eat alone while her children feast, please share this story. Let the world remember the worth of every parent. I placed the spoon down and covered the plate. The rice had turned cold already, the dal forming a skin on its surface. My stomach growled with hunger, but my soul rejected the food. It was not food I wanted that night. It was recognition. It was the seat at the table I had built with my own hands. I thought food would always unite us. Instead, it became the wall that kept me apart. The house grew still at last. The laughter faded, the clinking of glasses ended, and the sound of footsteps moved toward the gate as her in-laws departed with cheerful goodbyes. My daughter's voice echoed faintly through the hall, warm and proud as she bid them farewell. For them, it had been an evening of joy, of honor, of pride. For me, it had been a night of silence. I sat by the small window of my room, watching the streetlights flicker outside. My sari felt heavier than usual, though it was light cotton. My hands rested on my lap, empty, veined, tired. And yet, inside me, a strength stirred, quiet, but steady. I thought of the sweets sealed in the trunk, of the letter tucked beside them, symbols of love rejected, but preserved. One day, perhaps, she would find them. One day, perhaps, she would remember. But even if she never did, I had made peace with this truth. A mother's worth is not decided by the seats her children grant her. It is not measured by the words spoken in front of guests. A mother's worth is eternal, carved into the very breath of her children, woven into their flesh, sealed in their blood. I whispered softly into the quiet room. You may call me embarrassment. You may hide me in kitchens. You may refuse me a seat at your table, but you cannot erase me, because without me, there is no table. Without me, there is no pride. Without me, there is no you. If you believe every mother deserves honor, not shame, please like, share, and comment, respect. Let us remind the world that mothers are never an embarrassment, they are the foundation. The dawn crept slowly into the sky. As the first rays touched my window, I smiled faintly, not with joy, not with triumph, but with dignity. I may have been silenced tonight, I may have been pushed aside, but I will never be erased. Because parties end, guests leave, lights fade, but a mother's love that remains forever. They can hide me behind doors, they can call me too plain, too simple, too embarrassing, they can serve me alone in kitchens. But when the world grows quiet, and their pride no longer feeds them, they will remember the truest honor they ever had was the mother they tried to hide. The party outside grew louder. Laughter spilled down the hallway like waves, crashing against the closed door of the kitchen. My chair felt smaller and smaller, as if the walls themselves pushed me into silence. I glanced at the tin of sweets I had carried with such hope. They sat untouched on the stool, the sugar hardening under the cloth. I had imagined passing them around, hearing someone say, "These are my mother's sweet snow, one makes them like her." Instead, they remained hidden, just like me. I reached for the tin, my fingers tracing its cold surface. I wanted to open it, to eat one sweet, but my throat closed. These sweets were not for me. They were made for joy, for sharing. To eat them alone would be to admit that my love had no place in their world anymore. So I pulled a scarf from the shelf and wrapped the tin tightly, as if covering a wound. That night I did not weep. Tears had become too familiar, too weak. Instead, I folded my sorrow neatly, tucking it into the corners of my silence. If my daughter wished to hide me, then I would hide myself more completely than she ever could. I thought of my mother then. I remembered her giving me those bangles, her voice trembling. The world will never honor our sacrifices the way it should, but you must honor yourself. Had I forgotten that lesson? Had I tied my worth too tightly to my daughter's pride? The answer sat heavy in my chest. Yes. I rose, placed the wrapped tin into my wooden trunk, and shut the lid. The click of the latch echoed in the quiet room. It was the sound of something ending, not just the party outside, but the last piece of hope that I would ever be honored in that space. If you believe no mother should ever be silenced in her own child's home, please share this story. Let the world hear her voice again. Through the thin walls, I heard the clink of desert spoons, my daughter laughing as her in-laws praised her cooking. My sweets, once made with trembling hands, once symbols of love, sat unseen in a dark trunk. I pressed my palms together and whispered, "God, if they cannot taste my sweets, let them one day taste their emptiness. Let them learn that pride without gratitude is hunger that never ends." I thought silence would protect me from pain. Instead, silence became the heaviest weight of all. The trunk sat closed, the sweets hidden within, but my heart remained restless. No matter how tightly I folded my silence, it still ached, pressing against my ribs like an unspoken cry. I reached for a small notebook from my bedside drawer. The cover was frayed, the pages yellowed. It had been my quiet companion for years, a place where I wrote prayers, grocery lists, and fragments of thoughts. Tonight, it would hold something more. I dipped my pen in ink and began slowly. "My daughter, tonight you told me not to sit with you. You said I would embarrass you in front of your in-laws. But do you remember who first taught you how to sit with respect? Who showed you how to greet elders, how to offer food, how to listen without interrupting? It was me, the same woman you hid tonight. The same woman you now call shame." The ink blurred as my tears fell, but I wiped them quickly and continued. Asterisk, asterisk, I gave away my bangles so you could wear shoes. I gave away my meals so you could eat. I gave away my youth so you could study. And now you give away my presence because it does not shine bright enough for your guests. But remember this, the shine on your face, the roof over your head, the praise in their mouths, it all carries pieces of me. Without my sacrifices, tonight's celebration would not exist. Asterisk, asterisk, my hand trembled. But the words kept coming. Parties will end, guests will leave, lights will fade. But when you look back one day, you will realize that the seat you denied me tonight was the very seat that held your future. Respect is not in gold or silk. Respect is in remembering the hands that fed you, the lips that prayed for you, the eyes that kept you safe. I paused, listening. The dining room had grown quieter now, voices softening into goodbyes, but I stayed where I was, bent over the page, my heart pouring out what my lips could no longer say aloud. One day, when your pride is tired and your heart is hungry, you may open this book, and when you do, remember, the mother you called embarrassment was the foundation of your pride. Daughters may forget, mothers never do. I placed the pen down and read over the page. The words were raw, uneven, spotted with drops of salt from my tears, but they were truth. And truth, even if hidden, never disappears. If you believe no mother should ever have to beg her child for respect, please comment respect below. Let's make sure her voice is heard. I folded the notebook shut and pressed it to my chest. My heart slowed, as if soothed by the weight of my own words. I slipped it into the trunk beside the sweets. Two silent reminders of a love that refused to die. I thought silence would bury me, but ink became my voice again. I sat in the kitchen long after the plates had been cleared from the dining room. The laughter outside had softened into murmurs, and I could hear chairs scraping as they prepared to serve dessert. But I stayed where I was, my untouched plate before me, my hands folded in my lap. My eyes fell on my wrists bare, thin, marked by veins and time. And suddenly, I remembered the bangles that once circled them. They were not many, just a pair of thin gold bangles. The last gift from my own mother. She had placed them on me at my wedding, her hands trembling, her eyes wet. "Keep these," she said softly. "When the world feels empty, you will hear my voice in their sound." And I did. Whenever they jingled against each other, I felt my mother's presence close, like a prayer carried through time. But when my daughter cried for new shoes, when her classmates mocked her for wearing worn slippers, I took those bangles off. I sold them quietly, swallowing my tears, and bought her shoes. The pride in her smile was worth more than gold. At least, that's what I told myself. Later, when she wanted to attend college, I had nothing left. The world told me, let it go. Girls do not need education. But I could not. I found myself staring at the empty space on my wrists, remembering the bangles already gone. I sold the last piece of jewelry I had, a thin change, just to add to her fees. Hunger bit me in those years. But pride filled me whenever she came home with good marks. I told myself, one day, she will stand tall, and she will remember who made it possible. And now, in her tall, glowing house, with her in-laws praising her, she told me not to sit at her table. The bangles, the chain, the hunger all forgotten. I whispered to myself, my wrists are empty, and so is the respect I thought I bought with them. I rose slowly, walking to my small box in the corner. Inside lay a few things I had saved, a folded sari, a photograph, a broken comb, and there, wrapped in a cloth, was the receipt from the pawn shop, the proof of the bangles that once were mine. I held it in my hands. The paper yellowed with age. My daughter would not even recognize it. To her, it was nothing. To me, it was the price of her pride. If you believe no mother's sacrifice should ever be forgotten, please subscribe and comment, respect. Let's honor the mothers who gave everything, yet were left with nothing. I folded the paper carefully and placed it back. My hands lingered over it, trembling. I thought gold was heavy when I wore it, but respect is heavier when it is denied.